Hi, this is Ed Kohler with Extreme Networks, and there's obviously a lot of focus on remote teleworking, and Extreme offers a number of solutions to answer this requirement. What I'd like to do in this short video is give you a little background on the three major solutions that we offer, some use case examples, how they can be used separately, but more importantly, how they can be used in tandem and in fashion with one another. Now, I want to also say that this is going to use healthcare as an example due to the focus of what's happening currently, but also this could be used for any enterprise or any vertical that requires scalable remote teleworking solutions for their user base. Now, the first thing I want to mention is a foundational technology within our portfolio called Fabric Connect. This is run by some of the largest healthcare networks in the country, and they do it on a very resilient basis across the provider cloud environment. Many times they will use national level and regional level providers for both resiliency and coverage. So it results in a very tight mesh that allows the hospitals to orchestrate an end-to-end seamless fabric architecture. And our customers in this space love it because it is a 24/7 fabric. It is an always up. There is never any downtime required. Seamless upgrades, seamless changes to services, seamless extension of the network topology without any required downtime. And that's all very good within the healthcare environment. It also has a number of strong security attributes that I've talked about on several occasions, but we're not going to focus on that here. What we're going to do is talk about the need for extension of the Fabric reach, because this is the first extension, the remote extension of Fabric Connect. Now, many of these hospital networks require outreach to remote clinics, and these remote clinics may be of varying sizes. Now, for larger clinics, we can simply place a smaller VSP switch, such as the VSP 4900. It's a smaller class switch. It allows us to run Fabric Extend without fragmentation and reassembly, and we can feed it back to the hospital environments, which are obviously running VSP and often an XOS edge combination. And at that point, we're really doing the same methods that we are for the hospital. We're just really extending it out directly to the remote clinic. Now, in certain instances, remote clinics may be very much smaller. And they also may not have a lot of bandwidth capacity or bandwidth requirements. As a result, many times the reach out to these remote facilities will require fragmentation and reassembly. In that instance, we can actually place the XA series, either the 1440 or the 1480, out at the remote sites. And then we can actually run Fabric Extend with fragmentation and reassembly and basically terminate back to the hospital environments. And keep in mind that at this point, it can be any type of internet connectivity as long as it supports the required bandwidth. So now what happens is we're using the XA platform to basically provide an extension of the actual Fabric Connect mesh, even though they're not directly married over this inter-site provider cloud as per se. They're more or less extended off of an internet type feed. Now, that's great, because the XA 1400, 1480 can also be used, for instance, in urban scenarios where we have a remote triage and they're doing scanning there. So the XA platform could very well fit in this environment and then tether back up into the Fabric Connect cloud for as long as that triage center needed to exist. In New York City and several other large cities, hotels are being invoked into the role, actually playing a dual role of scanning clinics and also hospitals. At that point, XA becomes a very good platform in order to provide extension to those environments as well. And it even could be used in the home environments. There's no reason, particularly if it's a doctor or a remote clinic in a modified residence, where the XA could not sit out in this environment and provide a feed as well. Now, What I'd like to do is talk about the second class of solution, because as you can see, we have a very eloquent extension using the XA and VSP 4900 to get Fabric Connect out into the remote corridors, into the remote locations. But also I'd like to talk about a secondary aspect, and that is the Extreme Cloud Appliance and an associated solution set. Now, obviously we know the Extreme Cloud Appliance basically provides the ability to manage the wireless environment and does a very effective job. But it also has another role called IoT Defender, and I'd like to talk about it because it's kind of a dual solution role. It's very interesting. Now, obviously, XCA can work in combination with Fabric Connect, or it can work on its own. And one of the first roles that I'd like to talk about is the ability to support a local triage center in the parking lot, for instance, using wireless, and the ability to extend that footprint, the ability to get the scanning outside of the facility so that you can keep the activity and also potential contagions out into the parking lot environment rather than into the emergency ward or something else of that nature. So all important thing, XCA provides an important role in the day-to-day management of the wireless infrastructure as well. The other thing that we need to realize, though, is that IoT Defender can be used to protect medical equipment, both on site and then also, more importantly, in remote home environments. So if we look, we can incorporate the SA201, which is a wireline attached type Defender appliance, or we can use the AP3912, and that provides wireless capability. And in this point, we would use IPsec to tether back to the Extreme Cloud Appliance. Now, I want to emphasize that this capability can be used in tandem, or it can also be used separately from Fabric Connect. Now, it can be used for remote patient monitoring. There has been a need to take high-risk patients, get them off of the hospital premises and away from contagious risk, and obviously in many cases that is a home. And so using these technologies to provide home capabilities are great, but also keep in mind that we can use the AP3912 very effectively for remote connectivity for physicians, for teleworkers, staff, nurses. They can also use the technology to very effectively tie back to the hospital premises as well. Now, I want to note that both of these can be used, again, in tandem with one another, or they can be used separately. But note how they both are fairly focused on an infrastructure offering. We have the Extreme Cloud Appliance providing the tethering and the termination and the policy management. And in the case of Fabric Connect, we have the overall Fabric infrastructure and the BOSS switching platforms in the various places. Now, many times, these environments are run and managed by XMC. And XMC would reside usually in one of the sites. But then there is another solution that we offer as well, which you may have heard me talk about on my last video, where we are moving to a complete end-to-end cloud-driven enterprise. Because in these days, we need agility and we need to move at cloud speed. This is the third solution that I want to talk about as far as remote teleworking offering, and that is the use of Extreme Cloud IQ. So very importantly, as I said earlier, we are going to manage end-to-end. So while XMC provides an infrastructure management at a local level, XIQ can provide management of the whole infrastructure end-to-end. We're not there yet, but stay tuned for some announcements coming on April 6th, and you'll hear a lot more about that. What I want to focus on here is the use of remote teleworking kits. Now, these little kits are really, really kind of nice. I'm actually using one now, and I do on my day-to-day working practice. And they consist of basically a series of simple components. You have the XR, which is basically an SD-WAN type router, pretty much automatically boots and configures into XIQ. You have the Atom, which is a small AP which plugs into an outlet and provides connectivity back through to the router. And then you also have a larger AP which is the 150W, which can either be wall mounted or it can be a desktop type attachment. Now, the important thing to realize about the solution is it works as a kit. So the kit basically tethers back into the cloud, and then the teleworker has the ability to tether back through Extreme IQ back to their enterprise, and in this case, it's the hospital. So you can imagine a remote teleworker coming back into the hospital environment. And I want to emphasize that this can be used outside of healthcare as well, obviously. Now what happens, and I'm going to draw XIQ rather than these kits, I can actually place these in a fairly dynamic fashion in the residential environment. The only thing I need to receive is a small kit with the router, the access points, and I'm up and running as long as I have internet connectivity. Now, the important thing to realize about this is it can be used down in some of the remote areas because in many instances we don't have the convenience of infrastructure, and the only thing we do have is perhaps an internet connection. And at that point, the XIQ kit can actually work very effectively in these remote triage, realizing that many of these scanning centers will be set up in shopping center parking lots and things of that nature, and they may not be there long. They only need to really scan the community and then probably move on to another location. So this gives you a good example of how the three solutions can work together. Again, I want to go through them, Fabric Connect and remote site extension using the XA platforms and secure IPsec connectivity and the extension of the Fabric Connect mesh. The second one with the Extreme Cloud Appliance with its ability not only to manage the wireless environment, but also the ability for it to provide secure extensions out to remote residences for home patient care or remote teleworkers. And then finally, the Extreme Cloud IQ solution, which allows for a true infrastructureless type approach that leverages on Extreme Cloud IQ. Keep in mind that all three can work in tandem, all three can work separately and individually. You see examples here of where the use cases can be played out, but it's your call. It's a very flexible model. Thank you very much for your time. Stay safe, and above all, stay healthy. Take care.